Hey everybody, okay, today we're talking about acoustic overdrive. I'm going to talk specifically about the overdrive settings that I have in my rig. Stick around.
Pew, 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 pew.
So the main source of my overdrive tone is the Wampler Tumnus. Now it's a clon style overdrive pedal, which means the gain knob is a blend dial between the pedal at 0% gain and 100% gain. That is kind of favorable to me, being sort of a blues tone that I'm searching for. But the trick for overdriving an acoustic guitar, at least in my interpretation, this trick is over here on my HX effects pedal. Now, this pedal right here is my drive chain. Let me turn it on. Now, the trick with overdriving acoustic guitars is the fact that you have a frequency range outside a typical electric guitar. Now, acoustic guitars, at least this one in particular, goes pretty low, down to sort of the 40 or 50 hertz range, and then it goes all the way up to sort of that 12 to even 15K range in its overtone frequencies and stuff. With an electric guitar, it's actually not anywhere near as wide as that. So when you overdrive an electric guitar, you get all these nice overtones and you don't get that sort of fuzzy, hairy sound, which makes it sound bad in the top and the low end. On an acoustic guitar, however, you do have those frequencies. So when you overdrive those frequencies, they also get overdriven like everything else, and that's what makes the sound pretty horrible. Also, when you're on stage, you're competing with a high volume noise environment. So now I'm going to dive into a bit of tech talk. If you don't know what any of this means, hit me up in the comments, or you can check out some other stuff on YouTube, but I'm just going to dive into my settings and how I dial in the sound. So right down here at my feet, I've got the HX effects. I've got it routed so that this one pedal engages my entire overdrive setup. Now, so that pedal actually engages 4 things, right, with the 1-foot switch. The first thing in the chain is a parametric EQ. Now, like what I was talking about earlier about the difference between electric and acoustic guitars, I put a high and a low pass filter on this before I overdrive my signal. So I put the low pass somewhere down low at around that 70 to 80 hertz. I still want it low enough that I can get a warm sound in the low end of my body. And then I go all the way up to the top end and roll it off around that 5.5 to 6.5 kilohertz. From that point, I run an effects loop out of my HX effects. Here you can see the red cables coming out the back. So I go out into the Wampler Tumnus, which always stays on, and then back into the HX effects. So with this one switch, I engage all of these things. I engage the parametric EQ and the effects loop. It comes back in. The next thing in the chain is another parametric EQ. Now, when you overdrive any instrument, guitar, keys, voice, whatever, you add overtones above and below the frequency range that you're actually sending it to be overdriven. So what I want to do is I want to choose the frequency range that I send to be overdriven. And then when it comes back in, I want to control that frequency range so that I encompass some overtones, but not too much. So the parametric EQ that I send only goes up to about 5.5 kilohertz. When it comes back into the pedal, I run another parametric EQ at that 70 hertz for the low end and up to about 6.5 kilohertz for the top end. Then I run a very small slapback kind of room reverb, sort of a plate reverb, and that's everything. That's all I do for my overdrive. So a lot of it comes down to a good quality guitar signal that you're sending it. Of course, I use strictly a DI guitar tone. I don't have any microphone pickups in my guitar. That causes a lot of issues when you run into overdriving stuff. So I choose to use just the DI signal, run it into the Wampler Tumnus. There we go. So now I'm just going to give you an example of exactly what it sounds like. So I've set up a loop. I've pre-recorded this. I'm just going to kind of jam out and show you a couple of things. So this is the standard overdrive setting. Then another couple of settings that I have is sort of an auto wah setting. Little John Mayer style there. I've got another parametric EQ which pulls the top end. You can hear it's kind of clean up in the top end there, but I actually pull it down even further. I muddy it up a little bit more deliberate, which is good for the start of a solo. You release that. And then I also have my octave pedal that I engage sometimes through the solo. Now I'm going to do a combination of all of these in my solo. So this is what the octave pedal sounds like. Now this is why I left the high pass filter down at around that 70 hertz, because I still want it to engage some of that warm bottom end when I engage my octave pedal in the overdrive. If I set the high pass filter up where it really bites and cuts through the mix, where you typically would send an acoustic guitar an electric guitar signal up around that 100, 120 hertz, then it would remove the element of my octave, which is what I want to keep in there. So let me get straight into this solo. I'm going to engage this loop. Let me just jam out for a little minute. By the way, excuse my soloing skills. I'm just going to jam. So there it is. That's my overdrive settings. That's how I use this on stage. Hopefully that helps you influence some decisions when you're overdriving your acoustic guitar like nobody does. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you like the other videos. Stay tuned. I'm going to keep dropping stuff like this. So thank you. See you soon.